I'm going to break down two violent confrontations that I stumbled across on X. Links in the description. If I had to guess, I'd guess that these come from Central or South America. I just don't know. If you recognize where these come from, let me know in the comments, as I would like to know the where, when, and the ultimate outcome. Hey guys, retired Lieutenant Todd Heaton with Humilitas First. I wish that I could have access to full unedited videos, but this is where this one starts. So we gotta go with what we've got. Before it changes, I want you to notice how the driver is showing his right hand, telling the man with the gun that he's fully compliant. He's setting the stage. For some people, it might be useful to think of this like a nonverbal story that they're telling one another with their body language, with subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, gestures and tells. My best guess is the two armed robbers on the motorbike, they approached from behind, first stealing distance and time by stopping suddenly just past the victim's left flank, slightly in front of the victim. Why? The fact that they stopped just in front of him, that's a tell. What does it tell you? It tells you this is a robbery. If this was a hit, it would have been done a little differently. They want him to see the gun so that he fully complies. We start out with the gun pointed at his face. As the bad guy dismounts the back of the bike, then the gun moves down to his chest. Transitions like the movements involved in dismounting the bike, well, those carry some risk. Probably better to go with the chest at this point. If the victim were to draw at this point, at this distance, he'd be drawn from the drop. The probability at this distance is that the bad guy is going to hit what he's pointing at, one-handed, because his target is going to fill the backdrop of his firearm picture. No, I did not say sight picture. This is his competency range. If we're both going to exchange gunfire and hit what we're pointing at, well, the man with the gun in his hand that's already up, he's way ahead in that process. At best, we're both taking mutual damage, maybe mutual death. At worst, if I'm the victim, I take all of the damage. I die and he walks away, especially if he connects with a headshot, or I get my wife or my friend killed. Yes, it's possible that he misses or he doesn't even pull the trigger and I come out on top. But is it probable? No, that is not probable. Over what? A motorbike? That is not a good trade in my opinion. That bike is not worth either one of these victims' lives. Would you rather? My youngest son used to love that game when he was little. Would you rather have the gunfight at this distance, or would you rather have a shooting with you doing all of the shooting at this distance? This is a no-brainer. So we're going to see the victim begin to expand distance. The victim has already started to blade his strong side, his gun side, away from the armed robber. Watch his right hand. You're going to see him reach for his gun. Take note how his feet and his hips are still pointing towards the female victim. We're going to see that change in just a second. He's going to tell a little story with his hips and his feet. It's hard to tell for sure, but it looks to me like the armed robber sends one in front of the male victim. To me, that looks like muzzle rise with the one-handed limp wrist grip. That shot communicating, you need to leave now, like a warning shot. Let me know what you think in the comments. Does he send one past our victim or not? This guy, he doesn't care about brandishing laws, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated discharge with the firearm, unlawful use of a weapon, armed robbery, or any other laws under the sun. He's a criminal. He's a villain. Okay, so immediately following what I think was a shot fired, we see the male victim turn his feet, hips, and shoulders temporarily facing away from the armed robber. The feet, hips, and shoulders can tell a kind of story. That story says, okay, I'm done. I'm moving on. Note how the bad guy is still focused very much on our victim until he shows this submissiveness, this compliant body language. Once he sees it, well, what does he do? Well, watch both his hand and his head as he simultaneously drops the gun straight down at his side and his head turns away and down to look at the motorcycle, giving our innocent person a blind spot, an opportunity. In essence, our bad guy enters into a kind of complacency. Yeah, it's temporary. It's brief, but that vulnerability, it can be exploited. And it is. Watch his head. He begins to look to make sure all is well with our victim, that woman is kind of obstructing his view. Better take a step or two back to get a better view. He starts figuring it out, and his first inclination is to begin to raise that gun back up. But things are happening just a little too fast for him. Suddenly, surprise, surprise, the victim is ready up, ahead in the process of the draw. On a side note, a two-handed grip would have gave me so much more confidence in this victim. This could be checkmate if the victim has done the work to be capable of fast and accurate shots at this kind of distance. Doing the work, it's going to favor the disciplined man over the criminal who doesn't shoot so well. So what does he do? Before I get to that, check out how the other half of this armed robbery crew is already starting to raise his hands to gesture, please don't shoot me. What the bad guy with the gun does? Well, he remembers that he left mac and cheese cooking on the stove, and now it's time to go. In the United States, this is the major distinction between active law enforcement chasing after somebody in an effort to make an arrest and civilians. Unless you're advancing to stop an active shooter or chasing after a kidnapper who just grabbed one of your children, typically the idea of pursuing after a bad guy while shooting at him, well, that's going to be a massive problem on the legal battlefield. This is where doing the work to learn the fundamental principles of legitimate self-defense is a worthy investment of your time. There's one craftsman that I recommend to all my family, friends, and clients, and that's attorney Andrew Branca. He has a book titled The Law of Self-Defense. You can find that on his website, lawofselfdefense.com, and he has a YouTube channel where he breaks down legitimate self-defense videos of both police and civilians. In this second video, we're going to see an example of a victim that does have enough distance, providing she understands what it is she's seeing, and she does, which enables her to stuff the attack, dominate, and come out on top. This is a transition. She had to open the gate, pull her car outside the gate, and then close the gate. That's a transition. Transitions take time, and transitions are opportunities for those who are prepared to fully exploit them. Oftentimes, that's the bad guy. But sometimes it's innocent people of goodwill. Yes, she appears to be given too much attention to her cell phone at the wrong time. So just as a reminder, like the last thing that I want to do during a transition is be messing with the cell phone. Just keep it in your pocket. This pop-up is going to be annoying, but hey, we get what we get. You can see the carjacking or robbery crew's front tire as it begins to move into the frame from left to right. Now it's passing her vehicle that's parked just outside the gate. Here's the key. Normal people do not open passenger doors until the car comes to a complete stop. On the other hand, carjackers, robbers, and yes, even the police, well, they do open the door, and they often hit the ground running as the vehicle is still coming to a stop. I use this many times to gain an advantage in surprising and running down a drug dealer early on in my police career, getting the jump on the person. That's what it's all about. Another aspect of this is to note how they stop just in front of her left flank as she's shutting the security gate. Why do you think that's the point that they brake hard and the armed robber does what he does? Well, they want her to be surprised by their wicked jack-in-the-box trick, and they want her to see the gun so that she feels overwhelmed and helpless, so that she's driven fast and hard down to despair, that place where she gives up the idea of a fight and just gives them whatever it is that they want. This is not a hit. If it was a hit, they would have done things differently. They want something. They want her car, money, or her phone. Maybe they want her. The point is they want something. For her part, note that she immediately understood exactly what she was seeing. Look at the 90-degree bend in her elbow. This is the draw, and she had the requisite timing and the will to begin her draw at the exact point that her unjust aggressor had to transition, which could be a momentary distraction, from opening the door to successfully dismounting a moving vehicle. She begins to move to her left as she completes the draw and the ready up, which causes the bad guy to stop short, as he now sees he has his own violent, albeit defensively violent problem that he's going to have to deal with. He got a little surprised, didn't he? She continues expanding distance, presumably sending little projectiles at several hundred feet per second towards her unjust aggressor, which causes him to remember that proverbial pot of mac and cheese that he left burning on the stove. When things take a turn for the worst, most criminals who have acquiesced, who have gone all in on a life of vice, a life of crime, well, they start looking to save themselves. Looks to me like this is somewhat of a gunfight. Distance is going to favor the innocent, disciplined man or woman who's done the work to develop the hard skills, the ability to shoot fast and accurate under pressure. With the pistola, I definitely want a proper two-handed grip. At the end of the day, good on her. She understood exactly what was happening in a timely manner, timely enough to be able to bring her own firearm to bear to solve her unjust, deadly force threat problem.